I'm John, and in this session, I'll show you how to create user-defined table types, table value parameters, and how the parameters are being passed through stored procedures. A simple case of an ETL would be a good start. I have a list of 260 movie titles that they're collected and they're in a flat file like a CSV file, and I'm going to use bulk insert for the initial upload. Then we can look at the ETL completion using two different methods, one using physical tables and one using table valued parameters that are based off of table types through the procedures to finish up the ETL process, and we can compare them that way. Let's see how that works. So we have the data source, as I mentioned, in a CSV file. And obviously, we're going to have staging tables, and these staging tables, they're going to be in a physical form, and also it's going to be based off of a table type and table value parameters. At some point, we're going to see how transition works and transformation works. And last but not least, we're going to see how the data is going to be casted out to different endpoints or the consuming data pieces. So what you see on this slide is really a sample that shows that the data may go to human resources. You can go to payroll for payroll processing through ADP, which we're all familiar with, and tax information is stored. Speaking of the devil, it's part of the year right now that it'll be used. And the last but not least, for this particular example, on this slide only, I'm not going to get into the detail of those, is the Active Directory. Well, Active Directory, as you may be familiar with, is used for security and role-based or group-based or function-based and many other applications that they are based off of Active Directory to give permission for a user to access. Here is a short list of benefits using table types and table value parameters published by Microsoft, and you might find a slew of other benefits. Please visit Microsoft sources for more information. So one of the things that, first thing that pops up over there is talking about logs that doesn't require any logs. What does it mean? This really means that when a table value parameter is passed from a client to SQL Server, logs are not required because they're already in its original state, and it's statically is passed through kind of like a pointer or a reference to a table that normally is using stored procedures, right? So this behavior allows for efficient data transfer and minimizes contentions, as logs can slow down and be expensive a little bit on the processes, right? And while they're restricting access to the database's resources during the insertion. This efficiency makes table value parameters, or TVP, a performance-friendly option when sending large amount of data from a client to SQL Server for processing. So yes, it does make it simple and programmers friendly for modeling it. Enables you to include the complex business logic in it. So once you set up your logical pieces in your table, where they are part of the constraints, or if you have it in a stored procedure that you added additional statistical information, and once you pass that parameter, table value parameter, to other functions or stored procedures, you don't have to reiterate that. You don't have to recreate those. So yes, that's a one-stop shop. What else do we have in here? Is reduces round trips to server. Absolutely. Because when you're dealing with physical tables, you have to go back and forth, right? Because you're not passing it from one procedure to another procedure or a function. So that means you got to go back to the server. Now, this server could be on premises or it could be in the cloud. So either way, you're making a round trip to the data source. In this case, you don't. You just pass it as a reference. And the cardinality can have a table structure of a different cardinality. Yes, what is a cardinality? It's basically saying that, as an example, if you have a data column that is using social security numbers, it's all unique, uniquely identifiable for the records. And while you can have other values that they are repeated several times, such as gender or city names, state names, so on and so forth. So you can handle either way. And not to mention the fact that you can add indices to the table types. And let's see what else we got in here. Strongly typed, what does that mean? Well, they are strongly typed, meaning these parameters have a defined and enforced structure within the SQL Server. So each table value parameter TVP is based on a user-defined table type, as I mentioned earlier, which specifies the exact schema, including the column names and data types. This strong typing ensures that the data passed as a table value parameter sticks to the predefined table structure, providing consistency and reliability when handling sets of rows in a stored procedure and or a function. So what else we got in here? So yeah, I mean, we can go on and on, but I'm not going to go through all the line items. But the best way to see how that works is going to the actual scripts that I have prepared so we can go over them and walk you through it. I have two tabs open. The one on the left points to physical tables, while the one on the right utilizes table types with table valued parameters. You'll notice that they contain a similar number of lines and are structured in much the same way. The key difference lies in our approach to performing the ETL process. I'll explore each paragraph incrementally on both sides. One of the tasks I normally like to include in my procedures is to check the existence of objects that it's dealing with. If an object doesn't exist, then it gets created. Thus, ensures that if a table is inadvertently deleted or dropped from the system, the process will recreate it, preventing it from getting aborted. Similarly, the same approach applies to table types. If a table type declaration is removed, it will automatically be created. Earlier, I mentioned having a list of 260 movie lists or titles in a CSV file. I neglected to say that the extract from an Excel document was saved to a tab delimited text file. I like using that format. Examining the bulk insert statement, the only noticeable difference is that I'm using a temporary table on the right side to load the data. This is because bulk insert command does not operate with declared tables. It must work with either a physical table or a temporary table. Essentially, both processes achieve the same goal. Once the data is inserted into temporary table, it's subsequently transferred to the declared inbound movies table. I leverage try and catch constructs in most of my procedures and processes to capture any issues or breakdowns. Additionally, these can be used alongside of transactions with commits and rollbacks if something goes awry. Looking specifically at line 63 on the right and line 63 on the left side, you'll notice they coincide. However, the right side, which deals with table types, contains an additional parameter. The declared table for inbound movies using table type, whereas the left side lacks this parameter. This is the important part that I touched on earlier in presentation, where the bulleted item or the point referred to the necessity of fetching data back and forth or making a round trip to the server. The left side retrieves transformed movie data by querying a previously stored records, as indicated in lines 77 through and including line 86. Conversely, the right side does not perform this operation. Again, the structure of the transformation processes is quite similar, but the distinctive difference on the right side involves the use of parameters in the stored procedures, which is important to consider, particularly when it comes to the declaration of that procedure. You have to include read-only option. Um, and In both cases, the data ultimately gets written into the transformed storage table. As you have noticed, I also utilize try-catch blocks on both sides. The final procedure that we are going to examine is the load procedure. On the left side, line 110 and line 111 illustrate the final round trip to the data source or server, of which it could reside on premises or in the cloud, retrieving data from transform table and inserting it into the final destination, the production table. Similarly, on the right side, data is fetched via the inbound table type parameter and inserted into the production transformed movies table. At the bottom of the tabs, you can see how to execute procedure that generates the output. The process works sequentially where each procedure calls the next until the load process is completed. Of course, in some scenarios or cases, you can execute procedures independently without calling one another. But I have structured this session the way that the presentation works and presentation purposes, and makes it easier for me. I have also included some cleanup lines, such as line 129 on the left and line 132 on the right side, to demonstrate the ETL process. Without the cleanup process for our session, you'll notice that executing line 140 on or line 137 may result in an error if the table already contains records with primary keys, such as movies IDs. The try and catch process will show how the error handling works, and you'll see how it displays various part of the error message. I mentioned earlier that one can leverage try and catch also in transactional processes or procedures. In the load movies procedure, you'll see the use of begin trend, commit, and rollback statements on both sides. This ensures that if anything goes wrong, the final production table remains unaffected as issues are rolled back and errors are reported appropriately. First, I'm going to execute the extract movies still procedure on the left side and list the records in the final production transformed movies table. Then on the right side, I'm going to execute line 140 and execute and extract movies with the parameters, and line 143 is going to list the records that are in the same production table. However, after running the first execution in line 137 on the left side, if I jump to the right side and execute 140, you will see clearly an error will be raised. Now I'm going to clear the tables and run 140 on the right side, and we should get the same number of records that we did get earlier on the left side. Thank you all for watching, and I hope this training session provided valuable insight and was beneficial to your learning journey. Your support and engagement mean a lot, and I look forward to seeing the great things you'll achieve with this knowledge. Until next time, take care and keep on learning.